boys and girls? So we just finished our experiment that we did earlier today, and with the two little jars. See, my two little guys are still here. So remember how we had it out in the sun? One was in the sun and one was inside. And what happened? Do you guys remember? The one in the sun melted really fast, right? And the one that was inside, it still melted because it is a hot day today. I reached 109, I believe. It took a little bit longer to melt, and we saw that we started off at 9, and by the time it was 1 o'clock, all the water had melted. But it still stayed cool, the one that was inside. Water is very important, boys and girls. That's the reason why I wanted to share this with you, because water is so important to us. Not only do we need it for our bodies to drink, but we also need it for the animals. We need it for the plants. But most importantly, boys and girls, and this is the reason why I wanted to touch on this, it cools us down. Not just us in our body, but it cools the whole earth down, boys and girls, because guess what? Most of the world is made out of water, boys and girls. Did you guys know that? Most of it is water. The whole earth, most of it is water. And that water helps us stay nice and cool. So it's important that we have respect for water. But most importantly, the reason why I wanted to touch on water, boys and girls, is because water helps us to wash away not only bacteria and dirt, right, but viruses too. And I wanted to touch a little bit on that. It's a little bit complicated, but I want to make sure that you guys understand that even though water is like this, if we look closely with a little magnifying glass, probably not this one. I would say maybe a magnifying glass where it's like the ones that the scientists use. Oh, that's right. I wanted to introduce you to a little friend. Einstein likes experiments, and that's the reason why he was really all up in this little experiment, because he really enjoyed it. So my little friend Einstein, what he was telling, yes, I'm going to tell them, hold on. What he wanted me to tell you guys is how the water works. And see, the beauty about water, let me show you what I mean. I'm going to start with the red. Because see, what you boys and girls don't see is that water, come back. Water actually has, it's a circle, like that. Inside of this little circle is something called oxygen, okay? And it has these, like, two little legs. This has hydrogen in there. So there's oxygen and hydrogen in there. And we can't really see them because, like I said, they're teeny, weeny. This is how we make water. Let me spell out water for you before we go any further, because I'm seeing that you're going to see this and you're going to be like, what is that all about? So let me show you. W's, right? Because that's water. W, A, T, E, R, water. And here's the beauty about water. That's one way to write it. The other way to write it is this way. H, because this is the hydrogen. Remember I told you, hydrogen. 2, because there's 2 of them. 1, 2, right? And then O for oxygen. And you might say, well, what does that have to do with me, Miss Lizzie? Hold up. This is what water looks like when it's melted. When it's like this, completely melted, these little molecules, that's what they're called, boys and girls, molecules. They're like little balls, and they're just moving and moving and moving and moving and moving and moving and moving. See how fast I'm moving? It's because they're little balls. See, there's 3 little balls, and they're always moving. And the beauty about that is because they're always moving, whenever dirt comes in, let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to pretend this is a little piece of dirt. When dirt comes in, they move, and they just, you see that? It threw it away. That's the beauty of it. When the water is moving, it throws all that dirty stuff But hold up, what happens when it's frozen, you may ask? Voila! This is what it looks like when it's frozen. As you can see, we still have the oxygen in there, but the hydrogen, see this? They're frozen. And the thing about these little hydrogen little balls that you see here, they're like when you hold hands with your friends and you hold your hands like this and you sometimes maybe like this. That's what these are doing. And I don't know if you guys can see it a little bit. See how I drew this up here? That's when you form that ice on top. It's when these little waters, these little hydrogens, they're holding hands. But if you notice, these are still there. So that's why sometimes, if you've noticed, there's ice on top, but there's no ice on the bottom. That's because the bottom is still going, but the very top is ice. So that's what ice looks like. So with that in mind, do you think you can still wash your hands with icy water? You probably could with icy water, but if it's ice like this, you can't, right? Because it's ice, it's hard. See this? This is hard. But if the water is in liquid form, no problem. You can wash your hands. So you may say, well, Miss Lizzie, why are we even touching on this? Well, the reason why is because we need to be washing our hands. Boys and girls, you need to be washing your hands with soap and water. We're going to touch on the soap part some other time, but you need to be washing your hands with soap and water, counting up to 20. And what I mean by that is that you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Notice I was moving my hands around and I'm pretending that water was falling on it. But you got to make sure that the water is touching, because remember, the molecules are moving. They're moving, and we want to make sure that those molecules are throwing away all that dirt. All that dirt. So, with that said, boys and girls, you need to remember that it's important that you what? Wash your hands. With dirt? No. With what? Water. And one other thing that we also talk about, when water is frozen, can we wash our hands with frozen water? No, because it's ice, right? Another thing too that I forgot to mention, boys and girls, is the sun. What does the sun have to do with our experiment? Well, if you notice, it was the sun that melted and heated up the water. So it is the sun that basically gave the water its melting tendencies. That's what we call it, a melting tendencies. So when you keep water nice and warm, it's going to be moving. When you keep water cold, it won't, the molecules won't move as much. So we want to make sure that the water is running all the time to have clean hands. So with that said, boys and girls, I hope you really enjoyed our little experiment that we played with water. And hopefully we can be doing a little bit more of this. And you guys can have more fun with my little friend Einstein. Until we meet again, boys and girls, stay cool.